Hi guys, welcome back to IELTS Master. This is video number 37 and we will continue to discover the best way to write our test 1 in the IELTS exam. In the previous videos, we were talking a lot about trends and proportions and numbers and data and describing the changes and locations in the maps. Now, we will talk about something that is very important, adverbs. When we're describing data, it's always necessary to add the adverbs in order to emphasize your claims, to emphasize your observation. And one more thing that is very important is the idea of relevance. Relevance means whether what you say is really necessary or really related to the graph. Then in terms of content, we're going to take a look first at adverbs and then how we can use adverbs to evaluate data. And finally, we'll try to avoid irrelevance. Everything that we write needs to be relevant, and so we try to avoid irrelevance, right? Now, I have some adverbs. Your job is to match these adverbs. They are opposite. The ones on the left are opposite the ones on the right. I want you to match the opposite pairs with each other. Go. Okay, here we go. So what about well? I think well is gonna go with badly, right? What about marginally? Marginally is the opposite of considerably. Marginally means like small. Marginal is on the side, it's not important. Approximately? Approximately means the opposite of exactly, right? Approximately means you're not sure the number is how much. Just guessing. Constantly? Constantly is the opposite of erratically. Now, constantly means continuously, always like that. But erratically, now erratically would mean it's like fluctuating. It's not the same over a period of time. Slowly would be the opposite of rapidly. Significantly would be the opposite of slightly. Right. And finally, we got completely as the opposite of partially. Partial, it comes from the noun part. Partially, a part. Not completely, just partially. That's the point. With these adverbs, we're going to go to describe your data and evaluate them in the most probable way. Now, before we start, I want you to pronounce all of these words with me. Go. Well. Marginally, approximately, constantly, slowly, significantly, completely, rapidly, slightly, exactly, badly, considerably, partially, erratically. Okay, now we're ready to put the adverbs to the test, right? Now I have two sentences for you to take a look at first. Clearly, the trend is upward. It is clear that the trend is upward. These two sentences mean the same thing, but I have just changed the structure from the adverb to a structure with the adjective. So you can go from the adverb and change that to it is plus the adjective plus that. Clearly, it is clear that. Now I'm going to have some adverbs and some sentences for you to do. Apply what you have just taken a look at and do these sentences for me. Well, I think we're ready. So for example, it is significant that this is going to become significantly. Interestingly, this will become it is interesting that, right? it is probable that, well, this is going to become probably. It's not surprising that, now we have not. So how do you do this? Very easy, not surprisingly. Okay, so we have been able to use the adverbs to evaluate data, whether it is significant or interesting or probable or surprising or marginal, something like that. We can use the adverbs, and you can also use the adjective form with an appropriate structure. Alright? And one more thing to notice about the adverb is the position of it in a sentence. Let's say, considerably, sales fell. You can say, sales fell considerably. It can come at the end. It can come after the verb, or it can come at the beginning of a sentence. Clearly the trend was downward, and the trend was clearly downward. And so clearly can come at the beginning of a sentence to modify the whole sentence, or it can come just before the word downward to modify this. Apply and practice. Where are some possible positions for these adverbs? Now let's take a look. So number one, significantly. Let's say, where can it go? It can go to 3 positions. You can say significantly, the number fell. You can say the number of graduates significantly fell. Or you can say the number fell significantly. Right? What about evidently for the second one? It can go here. You can say evidently, the cost, blah, blah, blah. You can say the cost is evidently increasing, or you can say it is increasing evidently year by year. What about obviously? Obviously can go at the beginning. Obviously the trend is now upward. You can say the trend is now obviously upward. Alright, so these adverbs, they have a lot of positions to take in a sentence, and you decide which one is going to be best for you. So maybe in the first sentence you put it in the beginning, and in the next sentence you put it before the verb, and then in the next sentence you put it after the verb. It doesn't matter, still the same meaning. Alright? Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is relevance and irrelevance. This is important. First, I want you to spend 30 seconds. Look at the bar chart right here and study it for a while. What does it talk about? Okay, this is easy. Now we have a little bar chart, and this bar chart, maybe it shows how students feel about the test, right? Easy, moderately difficult, or difficult. Now, for now, this is not important. What is important is that I want you to read this sentence. This sentence helps to describe the chart. There's something wrong with this sentence. What is it? Have you seen it? Now, the problem is here. The problem is mainly because I think it is complex for many students. So it's that the subject is really most difficult is the mathematics. This is the most difficult. And mainly because I think it's complex. Man, we're only trying to describe. Don't ever give your own interpretation. Don't put your own opinion in order to explain why the data is like this or like that. When we're describing data, don't explain. You just notice the number. Is it big or small? Which one is the highest? Which one is the lowest? And so we call this sentence irrelevant. It's not related. It's not there for any purposes. You leave it, and if you put it in here, you're going to lose point. Right? Don't do that. What about the next sentence? Is there anything wrong with this? Well, this sentence is perfect. There is nothing wrong with it. Number 3, is there anything wrong? Alright, the problem lies here. We can say African languages were seen as easy. Now this is enough. And then you continue to say, which is somewhat surprising when you consider the range of languages. That means, according to my knowledge, I know that there are a lot of languages in Africa. And these students think it's easy. Well, that's surprising. Don't add your judgment, right? You don't have to say whether this is surprising or whether this is, it's stupid or what, right? And especially don't ever use you when you're describing the chart. This is not advisable. What about the last one? Is there anything wrong? Oh yes, certainly, very easy to notice. The whole sentence is wrong. It is not here for any purposes because what it says is basically highly understandable from the graph itself. You don't really have to describe what the y-axis show and what the bar contain. All right, this is not important, so don't ever include this in your writing. All right. In this video, we were talking a lot about adverbs, the meaning of them, and how we can use them to evaluate data. You can use an adverb or you can switch that to an adjective with a proper structure. And we learn how to avoid irrelevance. Basically, your own opinion, your own judgment, your own assessment, your own feeling, your own explanation of the data are all irrelevant. Don't ever include. Thank you very much. This is enough for this lesson. Review the video and do all of the exercises that follow. I'll see you in the next one.